Hi, everyone. Today's talk is about designing for privacy. How do you balance users' privacy needs with ensuring that the data is secure and private? Um, I'm Piyuesh. I work as the Director of Technology with QED42. I sit very much in between our customer stakeholders, my UX team, and the development team. I also act as the privacy coach for different customers, wherein I just ensure that I'm facilitating the conversation and the entire process goes smoothly. Seamlessly, privacy is integrated into the entire product. Oops. 1 second. Yeah. Yeah. Today's talk, it's going to be primarily focused on privacy by design as a principle. We'll look at what users expect from digital products today and what kind of problems a UX designer or a developer or things that stakeholders need to keep in mind. How do you run your discovery process, for example, to ensure that you're getting the right insights from there? How do you balance user experience with privacy? And we're going to look at all of this with a use case, with a case study, a very recent project that we launched for UNICEF. It's LAHA. It's basically an initiative by UNICEF focused towards GBVI, which is gender-based violence in emergencies. We'll talk a little bit more about it while we move forward with the conversation. So we'll kick it off with understanding or asking the very basic question: what is data privacy? Is it just about taking users' consent while you're collecting user data on the platform? Or is it just about ensuring that the data is protected and stays in a secure way? The answer to that is no. It's basically about ensuring that the data that you're collecting from your users, the users are in full control of the data. How it's stored, where it's stored, how long it's going to be stored for, where are you going to use it, right? All of everything related to the data that's getting that you're tracking for your users, the users have to be in control of it. That's when we say that data privacy is attained for the platform. Now, user data doesn't just necessarily need to be their personal information like name, phone number, email address. It would also mean that the behavior, the user behavior which you're tracking on the platform, that also comes under data privacy, right? And like recently, not recently, but yeah, in recent times, what we've seen is different countries have become more vigilant about this and are enforcing these stricter guidelines and regulations like GDPR, CCPA. All of us are aware of it. Before moving forward, let's quickly look at what consumers and businesses actually think about data privacy in today's world. As per a study by Cisco, 97% of users don't really know where their data is getting used on the platforms, which is collected by these companies today. Now, it's not, it clearly reflects on number one, growing awareness in the customers, and secondly, anxiety about how the data which has been collected by these platforms is getting used, right? Rather than just being a concern, data privacy is also looked upon as a human right, as a fundamental human right, right? Which brings organizations not just to be able to comply to these regulations, these guidelines, but also consider the human essence in it, wherein data privacy is considered as a human element by end users. Yeah, and at what cost, or what is the cost of not prioritizing data privacy? Another recent study says that approximately more than 70% of consumers would stop doing business with you if there's a data breach that happens. It just doesn't impact the corporate sector, but also NGOs, wherein a recent study by Global NGO Technology Report, it says that more than 90% of NGOs are really concerned about the data that they're gathering about communities and individuals, because the prime sector that they're trying to cater to, it is towards ensuring that social problems are resolved easily. Right? Now, so these are the problem statements. How do we solve all of this? And that's where privacy by design comes into picture, which primarily focuses on privacy not being seen as an afterthought, but rather being embedded into every other step of your project journey, right from the discovery process into the UX design process, into the system design principles that you're implementing. In terms of data analysis, ensuring that you're collecting the right amount of data, you're not over collecting or you're not under collecting the data to meet the business KPIs, right? Privacy by design is governed by these 7 different principles. Starting with the very first one, which says being proactive and not reactive, which means that every business should implement guidelines, processes to ensure that you're not taking a reactive measure to a data breach that has happened, but rather build in processes, build in automations, build in guidelines to ensure that this doesn't even happen in the first place. Because once the trust is breached for your customers, it's going to take a really long or a really huge amount of effort for them to gain that trust back. Privacy being the default setting, which means that you should not assume that that the user wants to share this, that users who are browsing your platform want to share this data, but rather let them make these informed decisions by maybe via visual cues, via checkboxes, via toggle buttons, that I want to opt into this. Privacy embedded into design, as I spoke earlier, privacy being seen as the first step and being embedded into different phases rather than it being looked at as an afterthought. The fourth one is very interesting. Usually in conversations, we see that there's compromise that needs to be made at a UX level to ensure that, so for example, a very good example of this is multi-factor authentication. Now, we all know that the second level of authentication, if it requires explicit user input, it's going to be less convenient to user compared to having a biometric or something which is more right in the face and user doesn't really need to interact with it, right? So ensuring that you're building seamless journeys, and rather than looking at privacy leading to a trade-off, but rather embedding it into the design process is what's important. End-to-end security, I think everyone would agree here that no one would want their data to not be secure. Ensuring that your data stays secure, stays encrypted both at transit as well as at storage. Visibility and transparency, which is more about ensuring that your customers are able to read and understand the policies that you have put up on the product. Use very simple language, avoid using legal jargons, which makes it difficult for users to understand it. It's very difficult for a user to opt into something that they're not actually understanding what it means, right? Respect for user privacy, like understand that it's going to be more and more better and more adaptable if a user has understood and they're ready to participate into data sharing for whatsoever gain that they're going to get out of the platform. And yes, with the recent study, it's also been seen that customers won't have an objection in terms of sharing their data as long as they're able to see a clear benefit of sharing this. And a very good example of this is like personalization or contextual data that you see on different products today. Now, all of this brings us to a question like, does data privacy actually prevent us from delivering a good UX? Let's understand what users are actually expecting from a digital product. Okay, they expect transparency and control over personal data, and a very good example of this is the privacy labels that you see on Apple Store, for example. When you're trying to download an app, it clearly shows you these are the few data points, or these are the few things that this app may access. So a user is making an informed decision. It's very transparent to the user that these are the data points which are going to get accessed. And they also have full control over the data that is going to get tracked. Security and privacy by default, I already spoke about it briefly. But yes, any product, for it to be consumable or for it to be adoptable by users, trust to be there, security and privacy are going to be very important things. Users expect the data to see contextual data or contextual output on different screens that they're browsing. Be able to access information in a more contextual way is a human nature. I would want to be able to see the right information in lesser time compared to having to spend more time browsing through a few sections and then getting to it. And all of this without compromising on the UX, having a seamless and intuitive user experience. Yeah, so we all understand that to drive personalization, to drive all of these user expectations, data is really important, right? Users are also okay sharing the data with the products as long as they are able to gain certain clear benefits by sharing this data, right? The only clause here is this data has to be securely stored, and the platform has to entrust the trust in the customers. Now, a couple of UX solutions which may really help us in setting these or meeting these expectations. The first one is opt-in, opt-out choices, and I know that some regulations focus on opt-in versus opt-out, right? But as a design principle, opt-in is something that is what is more user-friendly, right? Because you're letting the user know transparently that these are a few of the data points that the app may track if you go ahead and toggle the checkbox or toggle the toggle button to yes. So by default, my system is not going to track anything. You go ahead and make an informed decision that I want to share this information, and this is where it's going to get used, right? Simple language, avoid using legal jargons, as I mentioned earlier as well. Privacy by default, again, not assuming anything, but ensuring that that your customers are making very informed choices. Data minimization. I think this is something which I would like to talk a little bit more deeper into, because as a part of different projects or different engagements, what we have seen in the past is there's a business stakeholder team, there's a data analysis team, and there's usually conflict between data analysis teams which says that I want to collect as much data as possible and then be able to drive insights out of it, right? Which is not the ideal situation we should be in. Rather than making it an individual or a user-focused thing, we should look at KPIs that we want to drive or collect out of the data. So do a reverse engineering rather than collecting everything and then trying to trying to see what all I can pull out from this data as a metrics. But yeah, the major solution that we've seen so far in our experiences during the discovery process, make sure that different stakeholders from different departments are in the call. We're talking openly about these are the few metrics that we want to track, and then define that these are the few data points that I should be tracking. Anonymization and pseudonymization, these are few techniques which allow the data that is being tracked to not data that has been collected to not be traced back to any individual's personally identifiable information. A good example of this is Google's differential policy, which allows, or differential dashboard, which allows you to gain important insights from the data without it being traceable to the actual source. Give users full access to be able to switch on or off at any point in time they want to. For example, let's say that my system is collecting a huge amount of data. From tomorrow onwards, I want all of my collected data on the platform to be deleted. I shouldn't have to wait a month or a week even for that data to get deleted. I should be in full control of the data that the platform is tracking for me. Right? To solve all of, to build all of this is easier. You take a discovery-based approach and move towards delivery. But then what after delivery? You're going to make continuous improvements to the platform, right? So there's a huge need, and I think this is an emerging role as well as emerging need, I would say. Something called as privacy engineers. It's a new role, relatively a newer role, I would say, in different enterprises, organizations, where these individuals or a group of these individuals are primarily responsible for ensuring that the projects or the systems that have been developed, they continue to have privacy baked in, data security baked into them. And the few things which the team is primarily responsible for is conducting privacy impact assessments, regular monitoring, ensuring that there is awareness about privacy across different departments, especially developers, because they're the ones who are going to develop it, right? And yeah, I think this is another stat from Deloitte report, which says that the 67% of organizations which are investing today into privacy technologies and evolving around it. With this, I think so far what we've seen is, we'll do a quick recap. We've seen what is privacy, what does privacy actually mean, what users actually expect from digital products, what are a few, how privacy by design can actually help attain those or solve those problems, right? And what an organization needs to do to ensure that you keep it in check over time, right? We're diving into the case study now, which is LAHA, an initiative by UNICEF, primarily focused on GBVIE. I'll quickly talk about what LAHA is. So LAHA is a virtual safe space for young girls and women, focused on sexual and reproductive health and gender-based violence details, right? It also focuses on ensuring that this data or this information is made consumable in a fun and safe manner to end users, for the system to be better adoptable. So LAHA was basically a one-way consumption platform earlier, wherein there were articles, there were content which were available on the platform for people to read, right? Where we came in is transforming this platform into a two-way communication channel, wherein groups can be formed, wherein peer-to-peer communication can happen on the platform, And basically, the idea was to make this platform more engaging and more more easy to consume the information from. Right? Oops. Yeah. Our approach with the project was very simple. We did an actual user research, understood what kind of users that we're trying to deal with, different age groups, different personas. So we were dealing with different age groups and personas, which you can see on the right. I'm not very sure if that's clearly visible, but yes, we were dealing with different personas there. We were dealing with users who are digitally aware or digitally literate, I would say, and then users who are less digitally aware, right? We were looking at people who would browse the site from handheld devices and are not really sure about how securely they're browsing the platform or interacting with the platform. So there are different user personas that we were trying to deal with here. What we tried to do is we tried to break it down into different user personas, different user journeys. We aligned it with UNICEF's long-term and short-term goals. What do they want to achieve with the platform? We conceptualize a forum, which would be a two-way or a peer communication channel for different for this community. Interactive prototyping, and then we conducted actual user testing, which is where we gave this Figma prototype to a bunch of users, 15 to 20 different users, and asked them to go through different user journeys. We found that there are certain sections which were being difficult to navigate for people, while there were certain sections which they were easily able to navigate to. There were certain iterations which happened over there, and then we finally handed over the design to Laha, to the Laha team. The iterative process and actual user testing helped us get to the final state here. 1 second. Yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the solutions that were implemented. And yeah, I think after this discovery, we also realized that these are a few problem statements with the platform. First one being low digital literacy, because people who were, or users who were digitally aware, they were able to navigate through the platform very easily because they've seen websites, they've seen different websites, and it becomes really intuitive for you, right? Whereas people who have seen lesser number of or less digitally aware, it became more difficult for them to be able to navigate to, for example, forum section itself and things like those. We were dealing with safety aware cases wherein so this was primarily launched for Lebanon and Venezuela as two different regions, and yeah, we were looking at this platform being able to act as a safe platform for people to be able to interact, because yeah, the kind of conversation or the kind of issues that were getting discussed, they required the user data to not be traceable ever, not be able to link it back to a user in any way, right? We were dealing with platform abusers, wherein someone may come and spam, things like those. And yeah, unsafe device usage, as I mentioned earlier, like people ensuring that the platform is providing you tools through which you can still be able to be safe with an unsafe device usage. We'll take a look at those solutions quickly. So the very first one was user registrations, and they were done with zero PII collection, which means that we were not collecting actual usernames. We were not collecting actual user email addresses. We randomized the username generation and let a user choose one of the random usernames or put in their own username over there, which is a random username basically. Now, while we did this by tweaking Drupal's default sign-up process, because Drupal's default sign-up process didn't allow us to do that. So we tweaked it, but then it became difficult. How do you handle the challenge of someone being able to recover their account in case they forget the password? And that's where we implemented security questionnaire, which is a very simple way of being able to recover your passwords or recover your account in case you've lost it. Users had to just answer or choose the security question and put an answer to it. And that's how they would be able to recover it in future. Now, since we anonymized everything, a user didn't feel related to the platform much, because it's a random username and you don't have a profile picture and you're talking about a forum platform, right? So in order to break that monotonicity, in order to bring relatability to the platform, we brought in the concept of avatars. Now, avatars were a set of icons which were available to end users, and they could choose the avatar for them based on their ethnicity, based on the region that they belong to bring in some relatability at least on the platform. In order to address low digital literacy, where it was becoming more difficult for users to understand how to navigate through the platform or how to access a specification or really understand that what I can do under this section, we built guided tours, right? And these guided tours were made available at different interaction points. For example, when a user is registering, they could see a guideline pop up, which is telling them what or how the registration process, how secure the registration process is. In fact, including a video which allowed them to consume the information in a more visual way. We also implemented a quick exit on the website, which really acted as a safety first feature. So, for example, you're browsing the site, and then the users feel that they're being noticed by someone. They could just click on the exit website button, and the website would get closed. The tab would get closed, along with the history not getting tracked for it. So even in case users are less aware of how it can be traced back to what they were browsing or doing on a platform, clicking on exit website would ensure that it's not traceable. We ensured that clear and transparent privacy policies or transparent policies were implemented on the platform. Again, avoided legal jargons. But we all must have seen that huge privacy policy page, which people fail to understand or people fail to go through even, right? So what we tried to do is we tried to make it a little visual. We tried to break it down into multiple parts or multiple chunks, ensuring that users are able to consume the information in a simple manner. And at the same time, it's not a huge content that they have to read through. And they're making informed decisions when they're interacting with the platform, basically. This not just helped them consume the information better, but also helped build the trust with the platform, because it was very important for users to feel safe and trustworthy for the platform to be able to interact with it. Yeah, this I think I already spoke about, but yeah, guidelines were given at different steps. If you look at the screenshot on the right, when a user is registering, they're able to see community guidelines. They're able to see a small video, which shows them or displays it to them that these are the few features available, and this is how you can interact with the platform. For system abusers, we had content moderation in place. Now, content moderation, we all know about Drupal gives out of the box content moderation. What we ensured here is the content reviewers have a clear dashboard and clear call to action when they're reviewing the content that has been posted by the community before it gets published. We also implemented a feedback and reporting mechanism to ensure that if a user notices that something which is less comfortable for other users is going on the platform, they could go ahead and report it and someone can take a quick look at it. So yeah, these were a few features which were implemented for Laha. Going back to the initial question, like is designing for privacy going to have a toll on the UX, right? What I would like to conclude here is no, it's not, because the way we see or perceive our end users is different from the way they're actually interacting with the platform. Users are ready to share their data with the platform. All they expect is for them to have full control over this data. So if we ensure that, I don't think there should be a challenge in terms of designing good UX, right? I think bringing in stakeholders from different departments is going to be very important when you're doing discovery discussions, ensuring that you take the right decision, ensuring that you bake in privacy right from the stage 1 of the project. And then to ensure that you have a regular assessment and you nurture the system, you will need to have a privacy engineering team in place, which will primarily be responsible for ensuring that the platform is private and secure. With that, I'd like to conclude this, but yeah, I can take any questions, any conversations on this one.
There was one question. So the question submitted here is, what initiative do we need to take if data is stored in the website has been stolen or misused by a third-party tool or another source? What measures are good to take in advance?
Yeah, I think very good question, actually, because yeah, we have been talking about being proactive and not reactive, ensuring that mechanisms are in place. But what if this happens, right? You should have clear guidelines set up to users that in case this happens, this is what the recovery mechanism is for us, right? It's obviously going to take time to build that trust back with the customers, because once it has happened, and the customers have lost that kind of trust. Ensuring that you're being transparent with them on what happened, why this happened, and putting out a retrospect report of why this would not happen in future, what mechanisms you have implemented to ensure this doesn't happen. That's the approach to take here.
Any other questions?
All right. Thank you all. Have a good day, everyone. We have a couple of postcards and stickers here. Feel free to grab one. Thank you.